It's the Happy Families Podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Yesterday on the Happy Families Podcast, Kylie, you and I made a very big deal about how we were, well, I was buying back into, what do you call it again? Oh, Halloween. That's right.
You're saying I was making a big deal about it. You are the one who made promises.
I got caught up in the moment, didn't I?
You did.
And shortly after the podcast went to air, I looked at you and said, no. No, we're not doing it after all. So we let the neighbourhood down. This used to be the Halloween house. No Halloween. But I did take Emily out for a community trunk or treat that I found happening. And that was fun. And that's all I have to say about it. I'm not going to say anything else. Too much sugar, but nice to be in the community and nice to say hi to some people and that kind of thing. So I felt like in the interest of integrity, I needed to highlight that Halloween happened, but not quite the way that we said it would yesterday on the podcast.
Well, today is all about I'll do better tomorrow. So,
am I supposed to do better next year for Halloween? Is that what you're saying?
I guess you're making some big admissions and commitments.
Two things that I want to bring up before we dive into I'll do better tomorrow today. The first is that last Saturday, you and I spoke at a conference in a room full of about 260, 270 dads. It was a room full of men. You and two other women were the only women in the room. Just a room full of men, and you were brave enough to get up on stage and talk for about 10 minutes or thereabouts. We're going to share your talk to the Fathers of Girls conference. We're going to share that in the podcast in the next few days. Just wanted to highlight it because it was brilliant. And you made a room of 260 dads cry. I mean, not every one of them, but almost all of them. And you had their rapt attention. It was just absolutely fabulous.
Maybe because it was the change of hormones.
Well, they really they were responsive. I mean, it was rowdy for over an hour while lunch was served, and there was a fair bit of alcohol consumed as well. But once you stood up and started to speak, they were focused and they listened to every word. And the feedback from it was just beautiful. You did a great job. So we enjoyed that so much. And a big thank you to Luke and Sean and the team from Fathers of Girls. It's so funny. They've got this organisation and they raise money for charities, for a charity called Confident Girls. They've raised, what was it, something like, was it $150,000 or $175,000 that they've raised for this charity?
Yeah. Where
they just get dads of girls to show up, pay for their lunches, make a contribution. Big money. Amazing. What a difference it makes for girls who have additional needs or who are in circumstances where they need assistance. Just brilliant stuff. But you gave this talk and it was brilliant. So we're going to bring that to you on the podcast over the next few days. We'll find a slot and make sure that we pop that in there. Second item of news that I just quickly wanted to bring up was the Katter Australia Party. North Queensland, Bob and Robbie Katter are making a whole lot of noise in the media at the moment.
Parents have lost their rights to discipline their children. Some kids need a smack, a kick up their a ruler.
That's Margie Ryder. She's running for Queensland Parliament in the seat of Townsville ahead of this weekend's state election. Ryder is part of Katter's Australian Party, KAP, a conservative-leaning party, calling for a return to physical punishment as a form of child discipline. Think canes, belts and rulers.
Because they want to bring back the jug cord. They want to bring back the strap. They want to bring back the cane in schools, corporal punishment back in schools. And now that the LNP have won the Queensland election, this is something that they're actually trying to bring up on the agenda. It's not going to get through. It will never fly. And they're completely misguided. They have no concept of what the research says around this clearly, or they wouldn't be saying it. But I'm just, it's 2024. What world are we living in where we've got politicians making these kinds of ideas? I had to bring it up, Kylie, because, I don't know, because it's a Friday and I like to bring up these random things. So, folks, that's what's happening in Queensland, because in Queensland, not only do we not have daylight saving, because we're always a little bit behind. Although I don't mind that. I do like the 4:30 wake-ups. It's so much better. We've got politicians who want to bring back corporal punishment. Anyway, Kylie, you are battling hay fever, so I'm not going to insist that you talk a whole lot today, and we're certainly not going to go through the Fathers of Girls talk today, but it is I'll do better tomorrow. Let's kick this off with you. This is the bit where we get introspective. What worked, what didn't? How can we be better parents tomorrow? What was your insight? What was your learning? What was your positive or negative experience? I want to hear all about it.
Well, let's start with the fact that I've been riding now for 3 weeks.
Riding with a D, that is getting on a push bike and chasing me around the Sunshine Coast streets.
And after my first week of hazardous falls and
that bruise.
Flat tires.
My goodness, yeah.
We are through all of that and I'm feeling stronger and I'm really, really enjoying being out early in the morning with you.
Waking up at 4:30 in the morning to go for a bike ride.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the big challenge is that it has just added to my levels of exhaustion a little bit, and night times are really, really hard.
So it has happened more than once that you have fallen asleep on the couch somewhere between 6:30 and 7 o'clock, and the TV's not on. You're just laying down on the couch to take a breather, and next thing you know, you're unconscious, you're out, you're just gone.
So the other night, one of the kids came to the room. I had literally just put my feet up and was just kind of trying to take a breather.
Do you know what time it was?
It was 7:30 at night. We just finished dinner. The kids were cleaning up, and I thought I could just quietly retreat to the room and nobody would notice my absence. And there was a knock on my door. And one of the girls came in and she said, "Hey, Mum, I went for a walk earlier along the beach with a friend, but she doesn't like walking on the sand, so we didn't actually walk very far. Do you want to come for a walk with me now?" And I looked at her like, "Are you kidding me?"
You looked at her through closed eyes.
And I just said, "Darling, I'd love to go for a walk with you right now, but I am shattered. I got up this morning. I went for an early bike ride. I'm just really exhausted." I said, "Can we do it another day?" And she completely understood, and she was so gracious and just said, "Yeah, that's fine, Mum." And she walked off. But as she walked off, my heart just ached because I recognized in that moment what she was actually saying was, "Mum, I just need you. I just need some time." And it took everything I had to muster up some energy to push myself off the bed. And I called down the hallway and I said, "Let's go." And there was this hope-filled, "Really?" come floating down the corridor as she turned and looked at me and realised that I was actually genuinely serious. So we jumped in the car and we drove down to our favourite spot down at the beach. And 5 kilometres later...
That's not bad for somebody who was asleep 3 minutes earlier.
She was completely talked out. But what I noticed was the change in her countenance, and she was just glowing. It wasn't that we did anything special, but in that moment, what she needed was to know that she had my full attention. She was able to share her heart with me, but she was also desperate to know mine. And in that moment, we were able to have that beautiful connection that comes from no distractions and side by side, beautiful, comfortable connectedness, and it was just beautiful.
Worth noting as well that you don't have to live near the beach or in some kind of exotic location to do this. When we were living in Brisbane, in suburbia, a few years ago, we would still do that. Like, the kids would want to go for a walk and we would just walk the streets. We'd find the nicest place in the neighbourhood that we could walk to and we'd do that. Take home message.
Even when it's really hard, don't miss those bits for connection.
Yeah. Yeah, and my take-home message from that one would actually be that parents sacrifice constantly. That's what parenting is. And it's an uneven relationship, and it's supposed to be that way. You're never going to get back from the children what you put in. It just won't happen. And that's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. One day, it actually all does come back, and it comes back in an absolute delightful rush. And there are also those peaks and troughs. There are those moments, well, the peaks. There are those moments like when you have the walk and you think, I didn't have the energy for this, but gee, it was good. And look at my daughter now.
So what's yours?
Okay, my I'll Do Better Tomorrow is a really simple one, and it's kind of aligned. I've been working on my book, and my goodness, Kylie, I feel like the pressure of having to write a book takes... It's so all-encompassing. I've got all these things to do, but every time I go and do one of those things, I'm not writing my book, and so I'm putting off all the things that I have to do because the book is everything. And a book is such a big project that you can't sort of say, I'll just get the book done and then I'll go and do that other stuff. But that's kind of how I'm doing it because it's already 16 months past its due date at the publisher. I'm so far behind time. And the other day, our 14-year-old daughter came to me in the morning. She's being homeschooled. So she came to me at about 10 o'clock and said, "Dad, I'd really like to go to the beach and have a swim with you. It's a really warm day. It's a really nice day. Have you got time to take me down to the beach for a swim?" And I looked at her and said, "I've got to write a book." Like, I don't want to say this to you, but I've got a book to write. And she said, "No, that's cool. I get it." And I said, "I'll tell you what, I need to get my priorities in order, and going for a swim with you is a high priority. But if I go for the swim, I keep on putting off the work that has to be done on the book. So let me do a few hours on the book. And the Savo, once it's not so hot and we're out of the heat of the day, we'll head down to the beach and we'll have a swim." And she just like you said with our other daughter when she wanted to go for the walk, Lily just looked at me and said, okay, and really respected that I had work to do, and she went and did her thing and I got stuck into my work. And Kylie, I completely forgot. I got absolutely absorbed in the book writing. I did so much work. I was super productive and I was so proud of myself because it's so hard to do it until around about, I think it was 5 o'clock, maybe 5:15. And then I suddenly remembered I told Lily that I'd take her for a swim. And so I went into the house and said, are you up for that swim? And she looked at me and like, it's a bit late, Dad. I said, no, come on, we'll go for the swim. I promised you I would, and there is still some daylight. Let's get down to the beach. So we whizzed down to the beach, and again, one of the beautiful things about where we live is that we can do that. And Kylie, we swam for about 45 minutes, and I saw this kid in a new light again. It was that beautiful moment where you think, these kids are awesome. I love being with my kids. It's just that as parents, we feel so much pressure. We feel so much tension. We feel so much weight. And we're so torn because everything else is so urgent, and playing with the kids is important, but it's not making the same level of demand on us as the bills or the emails or the cooking or the cleaning and all of the other things that feel like they just have to be done. And it felt great. So my I'll do better tomorrow is a really simple one, and that is that we've got to make time for the things that matter most.
When I think about all of the important relationships in our lives, whether it be our children or our parents, our siblings,
or you and I,
close friends, partners, when we're not intentional about making time to connect, it's so easy to see how those little annoyances kind of just wheedle their way into our thoughts and the way we perceive those people in our lives. And I've had it happen so many times where I'm just like, oh, that person's so annoying, blah, 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 blah. And then I spend some quality time with them. And all of a sudden, I remember all of the things that I love.
They're actually delightful people.
Really delightful people. But because I'm removed from the situation so much of the time, all I see is the annoyances. And it's the same with our kids. If we're so busy just doing the mundane, everyday things and just working through the big list without actually being intentional about connecting, then it's so easy for us to just see them as annoyances because there's so many reasons to get frustrated.
Yeah. So the take-home message for me, probably the same as you. Kids spell love T.I.M.E. Just like dollars are the currency of our economy, attention and connection are the currency of our relationships. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. We really hope you have a fabulous, wonderful weekend and that you get plenty of that T.I.M.E. so that the family feels full of love and joy and all the good things. So grateful that you listen to the podcast. Hopefully it's doing for you what it needs to make your family happier. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend. And we'll see you on Monday as we tackle the big issue of how many times do I have to tell you on the Happy Families podcast?